Hello again from the Granite State. My name is Gary, and this is the Restoring Main Street podcast. As always, thank you for joining me. It has been a couple of weeks since my last recording, and it's not for the lack of topics. It's mainly because there's so many things that could be discussed, and so it's taken me a little bit of time to even think about where to go next. But I would like to at least refer back to my last podcast briefly. The last time you sat and listened to my orations here, I was asking for some help for the Nazarene Fund and those individuals stranded over in Afghanistan that were trying to get out by other means other than our government and what Glenn Beck's organization was doing with that. They had as much success as they possibly could, battling the State Department a lot of times, but don't want to get into a lot of that right now. All I want to really do by mentioning that is thank all of you, any of you that went to the Nazarene Fund or to Mercury One and donated to that. It is, and will continue to be until we get the last United States citizen and Afghani that helped our military and wants to leave out of that dangerous area. It will continue to be a worthwhile and important cause. So at the outset, I just wanted to take a second and thank you from the bottom of my heart for that. And then, I guess moving on to this recording and what do I want to talk about now? Like I've suggested, there's so many things going on right now, it's hard to even attempt to focus on one particular thing. And with that in mind, I haven't necessarily focused on one thing, but what I'd like to try to do tonight to the best of my ability is touch on a few things briefly and then just ask you to think about them, do some checking on your own, because I think all of what I'm going to try and share, even with the minimal amount of time spent on each one, I think they're all extremely worthy, and I think you would agree. So let's try and get this started. And hello again. Tonight, I'm titling this Conversations and Critical Thinking with Eyes Wide Open. Like I said, there's so many topics that we could talk about right now, so many things that are relevant, so many things that are causing so many Americans to be concerned, worried, and rightly so. So I guess what I'm going to do to try and lay this out the best that I can is I'm going to read down through a few just general statements, offer a couple pieces of information perhaps as I go, and then as I'd like to do with this program is ask the question, what can I do? How can I help? And perhaps make some general suggestions and observations and take it from there. Let you be the judge and see if these things concern you. So again, I'm a one-man show. Pardon me reading from my desktop here, so doing the best I can. Don't have a screen prompter or anybody running any of the mechanisms. I am a one-man gang here, so please forgive me for some of this. Like I said, going to read down through just some questions. COVID-19. And when I say that, everything that's gone on in the last 2 years. Have you stopped to question any of what you hear the majority of the mob sharing with you? Have you even stopped to consider some of the credible people that are pushing back on this? And should you? I would suggest that you should consider my way of thinking of this, and people may argue with this, and that's fine. You have a right to your opinion. If there is a handful of credible individuals across the country and institutions that are willing to stick their head up against the narrative, against the groupthink, making them an obvious target, don't you think it's probably at least worth some of your time to check some of that information out? That's my argument there. And keeping with COVID-19 and what's going on, like I said, I have statements and questions here, and I'm going to try to, like I said, offer some suggestions afterwards. But vaccine mandates. Will they destroy small business, jobs, and the U.S. economy? Something to think about. Look in your own town. If somebody's watching tonight that is not a Granite Stater, that is beyond the reaches of New Hampshire, and I'm praying that there's a few out there that are, how has all of this affected your town, your state, the people you love, the places that you used to frequent without a second thought? So think about that. The economy. How is the climate of today's economy affecting your business, where you work? Has it already affected your business? Are you among the unemployed? What can you do about those things? Like I said, just something else that I think all of us are concerned about and need to consider. Regardless of what your own situation is, if you care about friends, family, and your neighbor, and like I said, just your local economy, it's a fair question. And then when you talk about economy, you slide into what's going on with inflation. You see it at the gas pump. You see what's going on in the grocery store when it comes to the meat industry. And just a statistic that I picked up tonight, that just in August alone, inflation has gone up 8%. How is that affecting you? Is it affecting you? I can't imagine that it's not, unless you're one of those individuals where finances is not a problem. That's not the average American. So inflation. And then my next question, and maybe this is just a Granite State phenomenon. I don't think so. I don't imagine so. The 24-hour politics / news ads that are going on in a non-election year, forgive my memory, I don't remember in years past when it was not a midterm or presidential election still getting bombarded on my local news channels with ads for candidates that aren't looking to get elected right now. They're just pushing policy. I don't remember that happening. Maybe I'm having a memory lapse. Feel free to let me know if I am. It just doesn't seem to be the case. Leading up to an election year, I expect some of these things, but if I tune into a news or commentary station or podcast or programming, I expect to hear that. But when I'm watching my general local station, I'm politicked out. So how is that affecting you? Is it affecting you? And after this past opening Sunday of the NFL season, the continuation of attempted division in this country played a part in some of those festivities. In the singing of our national anthem and the black national anthem at football games. I honestly have no problem with the message in either one of those songs. I understand it. I get it. But when even Bill Maher brings up in his program a commentary about there should be a single anthem, that this is, akin to segregation again, looking at race, not being a colorblind society. What are we doing? We can all respect each other. We're all Americans. We're all Americans. And we should fight for every single one of you as far as justice and the rule of law. And not to be outdone, crime. Crime has gone up in 2021. Just one of the more visible outliers. Maybe we should ask the question of California, amidst concerns of COVID, them releasing criminals early back into the population, and then wonder why, crime in that state is going up. And dare I mention what's happened over the last 2 summers with riots in major cities, 2020 being the first of which in Seattle and other major cities, whether it be BLM or the autonomous zone in Seattle, those type of things, the burning down of and looting of businesses. Please tell me how that is not serious crime. That's not peaceful demonstrations. So those are just a myriad of things I was thinking about that I just wanted to touch on briefly. And my question to all of you is, do all of those things bother you as much as they bother me? And I have to believe they do. I have to believe they do. So, in keeping with the idea of, let's not just complain. What can we do? I don't claim to have all the answers. As I've told you before, I am not an expert in anything. I've experienced life. I've experienced all kinds of different situations that, and over the course of my 60 years here, and I won't get into them, but I can speak from a common man's perspective. I can think of somebody that is interested in conversations and critical thinking and pushing back. I heard somebody say today that if you're not critical, using your critical thinking, if you're not pushing back and asking questions, then you have already started to die. So what can we do? Well, for the first one, and pardon me while I pan up my document here. how about with COVID? How about we be informed? What I plan to do once I post this particular recording, I'm going to add some links and some names in comments below at the different places, so that you can check out some of these things yourself. And I want you to consider how much all of these things have been affecting you over the last 2 years, and is it worth your time to take a few minutes and actually dig into some of this on your own? The time for sitting on the sidelines is gone. You can't stick your head in the sand. Well, I mean, you can. But how are you going to feel on the other side of what's coming? Some of the things that are going to transpire in this next 6 months to a year, I have a strange suspicion are going to, put it plainly, blow you away. So does it behoove you to check into some of these things? I would think if you're an average, everyday human being that's going to be affected by these things, I would think you would at least want to take some time and look. So be informed. Check out some of the people that are pushing back on the narrative about COVID-19 and what's happening there. I mean, Dr. Robert Malone, basically the gentleman who discovered and invented mRNA when he was at the Salk Institute in 1988. He's pushing back on the narrative of what's going on with these vaccines. I would think you'd want to check into the person that developed this technology and what he has to say. I would think you'd consider it relevant. And just another name to throw out there, and I will try to find some more to share with you, because there actually are plenty between Oxford and other institutions that are pushing back on this. Dr. Scott Atlas, he's part of the Robert Wesson Senior Fellows from the Hoover Institute, and he, near the end of President Trump's term in office, had joined his staff to try to give some perspective from another angle of what's going on with the information about this virus and vaccines and efficacy of these things. Like I said, I promise to post some other reputable names that you can check into and see what it is they're saying. And if you haven't seen this yet, this is a book written by Steve Deace and Todd Erzin. Steve Deace is a podcast host, has a daily Monday through Friday program out of Iowa. And they wrote a book, The Faucian Bargain. And this is well worth your read. It basically gives you all the information, probably more footnotes in here than there is actual pages to read. So everything that they cite, everything that they talk about considering this virus, how Dr. Fauci has approached this, and some of the questions you should be asking, you can find them in here. You can find this on Amazon. I would suggest, for the modest amount of money that they are asking for this particular book, it is well worth that investment and well worth your read. So, The Faucian Bargain. And like I said, I'll add a few names to the two that I gave you so that you have some meat to chew on there. So, and check on the actual science behind the efficacy of masks, infection rates compared to CFR, which is case fatality rates, and something not enough states are tracking, the actual severity of the infections that are going on right now. It's one thing that I noticed in the mainstream media they tend to leave out, and I'm sure that making you aware of this, you'll notice this next time, is a lot of times they talk about infection rates and how much they've gone up in different states, but rarely do you hear them talk about the severity or lack of severity of what's going on. How many of these people are, coming into the hospital and getting minor treatments and going home? How many are actually ending up on ventilators? And what about natural immunity and how that is affecting the population? If you want to question that, do a little digging into Sweden, who never had any lockdowns, and check in to see how they're faring right now compared to other countries. And don't mistake what I'm telling you here. COVID-19 and any variant it's here to stay. It's a coronavirus. It's not going anywhere. We're gonna be dealing with this forever. But with a virus that has a 99% recovery rate, and we know the ages and the comorbidities that have that's more problematic, that have issues. We know who we should be protecting and how we should be approaching this. So I just ask you, like I said, if these people are willing to stick their heads up and make themselves a target, isn't it at least worth your time to check into what they're saying? These are credible people. Otherwise, I wouldn't be making this argument. All right, how about the economy? How about we think local? Local as much as possible. The New Hampshire unemployment rate, thankfully, that I heard tonight after watching my local news, is down to only 3%. And what's it like in your state? How much is what's happening with COVID and the mandates and vaccine, talk of vaccine mandates? How much of that is killing small business? What would lockdowns do again? Mask mandates do again? And why aren't they talking about how natural immunity for those that have been infected and recovered, how that is actually affecting reaching herd immunity and how we deal with this virus? Why is that not an honest discussion? All of that, if any of what happened in 2020, as far as this virus kicks back in again, how is it going to affect your business? How is it going to affect your neighborhood? How is it going to affect your downtown? Small business. Large companies made their ways through. You notice that the ones that got shut down were small companies. Ask why. Why? Why was it okay for Walmart to still be open, but your local mom and pop couldn't be open? Even if they used some of the guidelines as far as capacity in their stores, why weren't they allowed to stay open? I'm sorry, that's a fair question. And then inflation. What can we do? What can we do as far as inflation? Again, it gets back to local. When you talk about meat prices and those type of things affecting you, here's a suggestion that was made on a podcast that I was listening to, and instantly it made sense to me. Seek out local farmers and butchers, people that you could possibly reach out to that you know that raise livestock, that perhaps you could, with a friend, invest in, and then have that meat processed by a local butcher, and then you don't have to worry about what's going on with the shortage of meat or the increase in prices and where your next meal is going to come from. If you haven't looked into, and this is a quick plug, My Patriot Supply. For those of you that, those of us that don't can anymore, and you want something as far as emergency food, check out My Patriot Supply. But as far as local goes, shop local, support local. Like I said, see about finding places where you can get local produce, local meats. Seek out some of those old-time ways that we used to deal with these things when it was not on a national level. One of the national meat processing companies is owned by China. How do we allow that purchase to happen? We've shipped all the manufacturing of our drugs over to one of our biggest adversaries in China, and we're selling off property and processing of our meat here in the United States to that same entity. Tell me how that makes any sense at all. So shop local. And here's the other thing that you don't probably realize, is a lot of this, you can check for the reasoning behind what's happening with the increase of meat prices. Why the government has shut down drilling on national property, government property, which has helped to drive up the price of gas at the pump. Well, if you don't think that this country or the people that are running it presently haven't bought into the World Economic Forum and the Great Reset and what Klaus Schwab and George Soros and a few of those individuals have planned for you in the near future, there's someplace else that you need to go take a look at. Check out the World Economic Forum website and Klaus Schwab. They're not hiding what their intentions are and what they're trying to do. So, local. Think local. Crime. How about you stand up and make your voice heard when your state turns around and lets criminals out of the justice system early because of COVID concerns. And we're not talking about petty thieves, we're talking about serious criminals when we're talking about California. Luckily, here in the Granite State, we have some of the lowest crime in the country, okay? It's already low. Violent crime rates made an improvement this year, dropping from 1.7 incidents per thousand for New Hampshire to, that's per 1,000 people, to 1.5. And some other encouraging news, at least for the Granite State, if I can get down to the information. The poverty level has decreased. Poverty crime, decreased from 12.5 per 1,000 people to 12.1. And part of the reason why, we have our share of crime in our big cities. Manchester, if you watch the local news, you will see evidence of crime, and in smaller communities as well. But for the most part, like I said, we have a very low crime rate, and as excited as the left will be of me mentioning this, part of that is in New Hampshire, we believe in guns. We have constitutional carry in this state. So when a criminal has to pause and think whether it's worth his efforts, because he doesn't know who might be carrying in that particular situation or place here in the Granite State, That's probably part of the reason why we have one of the lower rates in the United States that we do. And politics or policy. What can we do there? Well, you can do your best to vote. Mike Lindell at frankspeech.com has produced information, forensic information about what went on with the last election. And he has individuals in every single state looking to push for audits, information, and he has the forensic information to back up what he is doing. So I would encourage you to check out frankspeech.com and see what Mike Lindell has found. It's extremely enlightening and terrifying at the same time. But if you can lend yourself there in whatever way that you can support what's going on with that, I would highly recommend that. And like I said, the time for sitting on the sidelines is over. Absolutely 100% over. So, run for office. Run for school board. Run for city council, mayor. And if you can't do that, support in other ways. Attend these meetings. Watch some of these meetings online. Be aware of what's happening in your own community and help push back when you see things that you don't agree with. When you see critical racist theory popping up in your schools. I got to see if I can find a list. The Granite Gronk, Steve McDonald, I believe that's his name, and if I've got it wrong, please forgive me, but he has a list for here, for the Granite State, of teachers that are still pledging, even though we've passed legislation to stop this, to still find a way to get critical race theory into the classrooms and spread that cancer. Do you care about your kids? Do you still believe in the principles that founded this country? Stay involved. Get involved. Take notice to what they're being taught. Check in on that. And you know what? The teachers and these schools, their paychecks, they work for you. Push back. Push back. So it is time to stand up. It is time to stand up and stop all of this. And the 24-hour political ads in a non-election year is driving me crazy. Here in the Granite State, one of our representatives, Chris Pappas, you're seeing a clean energy commercial that comes up quite often, trying to convince you that what it is they're trying to push through Washington is a good thing. You heard the phrase, build back better. If you live in the Granite State, next time you have the TV on and you have Channel 9 on, listen for that commercial from Chris Pappas. And when you hear build back better, that is the World Economic Forum. That is the Great Reset. That is taking your freedoms away from you. That is the entire plan. So if you hear build back better, that is not some phrase that Joe Biden invented. If you listen closely, you'll hear different individuals, prime ministers and presidents, leaders of other countries, saying the same thing. This is not good. These are not good things. Please, 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 check out the World Economic Forum and Klaus Schwab and see what it is that I'm talking about when we talk about the Great Reset. This is going to affect your life like nothing you can possibly imagine. And one of the last things I talked about, division. What can we do about division in America? Well, we have examples. We've had examples through history. How about we stop seeing color again? How about you remember the marches of Martin Luther King Jr. and what those were supposed to be about, what those were designed to achieve. Stop vilifying people based on their personal rights and their decisions. They're still just people. They're still your neighbors. When you're talking about COVID, if you want to wear a mask, wear a mask. If you don't want to wear one, don't wear one. But don't vilify the person that's not wearing it. If you want to get the jab, get the shot. But don't vilify somebody else that decides not to get vaccinated because they have concerns. And if both of those things work, what do you have to worry about? And the fact that they're talking about third-round booster shots, to me, tells you how well these things actually work. And again, I bring up Sweden. If natural immunity wasn't 100 times better than these vaccines, why is Sweden doing so well? Research. That's one of the things I'm going to leave you with right now, as far as what you can do. You need to get active. If you care about these things, everything from the economy to what's happening with COVID, the thought of businesses, small businesses, people you care about going out of business because things are becoming so locked down again. Vaccine passports. Push back against all of these things. You have to take a stand. If you don't stand now, when it's still relatively easy, it's only going to get harder, and it's like a muscle. If you don't exercise that muscle, it becomes weak. And I hate to say this, in a lot of cases, we have become a little too complacent, and things have become easy. We've left things to other people and other institutions instead of trying to pay attention ourselves. And I'm just as guilty of some of those things. But I'm talking about it now. And I'm urging you to consider some of these same things. Dig into these things. And like I said, tonight I covered a gambit of different things. Tried not to, like I said, get bogged down with a whole lot of potential information, because I can throw information at you, but you know what the funny thing is? If you don't look, research yourself, internalize some of these things, become informed so that you're much more aware, what good does it do? So like I said, I promise you I will add some links, some names of people to check out as far as pushback on COVID and all of those different things. And I encourage you, please, participate. Participate in your own life, what's happening around you. Because it's going to happen whether you participate or not. And at least if you're informed, in some cases you can prepare for certain things. And you need to. It's gotten to that point now where you need to. You need to be aware. And in the end, honestly, in God we trust was, or has been, our motto for a very long time. You find it on our currency. And that needs to be our motto again. And I'm not necessarily talking about the government, because you know what? I don't necessarily think that they're coming to the rescue. And honestly, whatever the federal government touches, things outside of their purview that are not outlined in the Constitution, it usually goes to crap. And most of what they try to stick their nose in should be reserved to the states and state decisions, because it's not outlined in Article 1, Section 8 for them to even be sticking their nose in to begin with. So we need to get back in God we trust. If the government is not going to do the things we need them to do, we need to work for voter integrity, push back on some of these things, demand accountability so that we can have faith in our elections again. And you need to, if you're not going to do this for yourself, think about those you love. Think about your family, your friends, your neighbors. Start to rely on each other. Make those tight-knit bonds locally that you need to, so that you can help one another get through what I believe are going to be some difficult days ahead. And I think they're going to stretch for much longer than I'd care to talk about right now. So, but those are just some of the things I want to discuss tonight. Just wanted to share those with you, and just food for thought. And please comment. Let me know what you think. I want to get some feedback on all of this. That's why I'm kind of leaving you with homework to go and check out. Don't take my word for all of this. You know, it's easy to just sit there and run with the rhetoric and say, oh, yeah, no, everything you're saying is wrong. It's a lie. It's not true. Well, how about you go check it out? Prove me wrong. I believe in fair discussions. We can have a fair discussion. I'm okay with that. Okay. On the lighter side of things, as always, you can find this podcast on YouTube for as long as they'll carry it until my content is no longer favorable there. You can find it on Rumble. You can find it on Gab TV. I post to Anchor FM. Get the flies out of here, excuse me. I post to Spotify. I post to BitChute. And I said Gab is Gab TV. I think I mentioned that. I have Restoring Main Street podcast, Instagram, Twitter, obviously on Facebook. You can find Restoring Main Street page on Facebook as well. And a couple of people have asked, and this is a little off topic, but I just want to give a shout out and some credit. If you've noticed in the background there's a couple, those are basically metal cutouts. One being my logo for First Crown Point Group, LLC, which is my company. With that's the Blue Job Fire Tower and a pine tree next to it. That's my logo. And then you see the 1776 flag back there, We the People. Those were produced by a local company, Metalheads, here in Rochester. And this is... they are not a sponsor, but I'm giving them a free plug right now. This Metalheads at the Rochester Mall, they have a shop, and they're still on Main Street as far as I know. You can find them on the web at metalheadsrock.com and Facebook at metalheadsrocknh. The owners there are fantastic. They got some, like I said, those are all metal fabrications that I'm using from my set back there, and they did a fantastic job with those. But part of what Metalheads is about is exactly what it sounds like. They also promote heavy metal, so they've got all the apparel, attire, those type of things that is related with that particular genre of music, and they are well worth checking out if you live locally here in the Granite State and make it into the lovely metropolis of Rochester, my hometown. So, all right, I have gone on for quite a bit tonight. I have bent your ear for longer than usual, and I want to leave you, as I always do, with this: God, freedom, and family. Because if we lose the first two, our families are truly, truly doomed. So I thank you once again, as always. Ask you to please follow, share, click, subscribe, all those good things. Write a review. Go to my Facebook page on Restoring Main Street and please write a review. All of those things help what it is I'm trying to do. And like I said, I just am looking to still have a voice, to still speak out, to still have those conversations. And I am looking to sit down and have conversations again with other individuals, sit across and discuss different topics and what's going on, whether it be locally or around the globe here in the United States. I will get back to those. Like I said, just need to book individuals and then coordinate schedules. So I'm still working on all those things. And so I appreciate all your support and prayers. Just very grateful. So, and comment. Please comment. I want to hear from you. So, again, I'll let you go. Thank you for listening, and God bless.